An unsettling trend has emerged as independent voters increasingly distance themselves from President Donald Trump. Recent analyses revealed that the net approval rating among independents, once a modest metric, has deteriorated to record depths, underscoring an unprecedented disconnect between the executive's messaging and the sentiments of centrist Americans. Historically, Trump had set a low benchmark during his initial presidential term, posting a minus 16-point rating among independents in 2016. Today, that figure has plunged even further to a staggering minus 22 points, marking the worst performance at this stage of any presidency. Sir? A closer inspection of the figures brings forth a clear narrative. When it comes to economic stewardship, Trump's standing among independent voters has crumbled dramatically over a short period. In January, assessments indicated a slight buoyancy, albeit a marginal positive net approval rating of 1 point on economic matters. Fast forward to the present, and that measure has nosedived to an alarming minus 29 points. Such a steep decline over merely 3 months highlights a profound disillusionment among voters with regard to the current administration's economic policies. The numbers tell a cautionary tale. Should these sentiments prevail, sustaining Republican control over critical government institutions, like the House of Representatives, appears increasingly tenuous. The core of the discontent lies in the administration's handling of the nation's economic policies, particularly its trade stance. The report finds that the self-inflicted economic damage under Trump's leadership could have been avoidable. By decisively opting for a policy marked by confrontational tariffs and unyielding threats of invasion, metaphorically speaking, against major global trading partners, Trump's strategy has not only destabilized international trade, but has also led to severe domestic economic repercussions. Rather than fostering cooperation, these policies have triggered an international backlash. Global counterparts, far from acquiescing to his demands, have imposed retaliatory tariffs that have ushered the United States into a trade war extending across continents. In this evolving trade conflict, the administration's assumption that world leaders would quickly capitulate and adjust to America's demands appears to have been gravely misguided. Instead, countries have responded with a coordinated pushback. Leaders of nations known for their pragmatic economic policies have not bowed to threats, but have instead adopted measures that undermine Trump's aggressive tariff campaign. This collective retort is not confined to any one region. Northern neighbors, European allies, and even distant economic powers are all recalibrating their trade policies in light of America's overbearing tactics. For instance, Canadian policymakers and analysts have signaled considerable displeasure with the current US posture, as diplomatic relations have grown increasingly strained. Likewise, Greenland's foreign affairs officials are exploring avenues for deeper economic engagement with China, reflecting a broader global realignment. According to various reports, state news agencies in China have documented that nations such as Japan and South Korea are looking to forge unified strategies in response to US tariff measures. Moreover, the European Union has already begun to relax tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, further indicating that America's aggressive stance is inadvertently fostering stronger economic ties with its long-standing competitor. Trump's approach has also come under scrutiny for its internal dynamics. Observers note that the president's reliance on a close-knit group of advisors, characterized by unwavering loyalty and an almost sycophantic deference, has significantly warped his perception of global politics. Within the insulated circle that surrounds him, critics argue there exists a dangerous echo chamber that distorts his understanding of international affairs. It is this bubble that has seemingly encouraged a view where every opposing leader is envisaged as either a subordinate or an adversary, guaranteed to submit to his overtures. This skewed perception has direct consequences on national policy. The president's assertion that his harsh measures are intended to strengthen America's global standing rings hollow when examined in the context of broader economic indicators. The repercussions of these policies are measurable on multiple fronts. The stock market has suffered, American retirement accounts are under severe strain, and there is palpable unease about the future economic prospects of the nation. It is increasingly evident that the purported benefits of a protective economic policy are eclipsed by the fallout from a trade war that, many believe, has been self-wrought. Central to these developments is the contentious issue of the US-China relationship. President Trump has repeatedly stressed that negotiations with China are of paramount importance, articulating a vision in which the United States holds the upper hand due to its vast consumer market. In a recent communication from the Oval Office, the president emphasized that the ball is in China's court, a statement intended to project confidence, but which, in reality, belies the structural vulnerabilities in America's negotiating position. The expectation that China will mirror the deference seen by Trump's inner circle appears increasingly out of step with the international consensus. Global leaders are not only unwilling to yield to American pressure, but are actively cementing alliances that diminish the United States' leverage in economic negotiations. The very notion of reciprocity, according to Trump, is predicated on the assumption that every nation desires what America offers. In other words, its enormous consumer base and unparalleled financial influence. However, this perspective ignores the complex web of interdependencies that define modern international trade. The reality is that while the United States may indeed be a lucrative market, its aggressive tariffs and unilateral policy shifts have alienated potential partners. The fallout from this miscalculation is manifest not only in the deteriorating economic numbers, but also in a global narrative that increasingly views America as a destabilizing force rather than a pillar of economic stability. The current political climate in the United States is thus characterized by a paradox. On one hand, the incumbent administration's policies are eroding its standing among a pivotal group of voters, the independents, whose support is critical for any electoral success. On the other hand, these same policies, which were meant to project strength and assert American dominance in global trade, are instead contributing to an enduring economic crisis that could very well hamper the nation's long-term prospects. The dramatic fall in Trump's net approval rating, from a marginally positive 1-point performance in January to a crushing minus 29 points on economic matters, serves as a stark indicator of the erosion of trust among the American electorate. Viewed from an analytical perspective, the evidence suggests that the president's strategy, marred by an unyielding reliance on hardline tactics and a narrowly defined vision of loyalty, has backfired. Not only has this approach led to adverse economic outcomes domestically, but it has also shifted the global equilibrium away from the traditional paradigm of US leadership. The isolation of America in international trade discussions and the concerted efforts by other nations to forge alternative alliances reflects a broader trend in which unilateral policies are increasingly being supplanted by multilateral cooperation. In summary, the data and international reactions point to a definitive conclusion. President Trump's policies have not only alienated a crucial segment of the electorate, but have also precipitated a series of economic and diplomatic setbacks that may have long-lasting effects. Independent voters, now more critical than ever, are sending a clear message about their discontent. Their diminishing support is emblematic of a broader crisis of confidence that spans both domestic policy and international relations. The consequences of this decline are multifaceted, impacting everything from stock market performance to the viability of long-term trade agreements. Ultimately, the unfolding scenario represents not merely a political misstep, but a profound recalibration of global economic alignments. As the United States grapples with these challenges, the reality that emerges is one of caution and reflection. The erosion of support among centrists should serve as a wake-up call. In the arena of international diplomacy and economic policy, unilateral aggression is increasingly counterproductive. The future, it appears, will demand a more measured and cooperative approach, one that recognizes the interdependence of nations and the intricate balance required to sustain economic prosperity and global respect. The investigative report therefore concludes that the current trajectory under President Trump is fraught with significant risks, both domestically and internationally. With independent voters firmly distancing themselves and global alliances shifting away, the administration faces an uphill battle in re-establishing the confidence and stability necessary to lead effectively on the world stage. The coming months will be critical in determining whether these trends portend a long-term recalibration of US policy or merely a transient phase in the tumultuous arena of American politics.